Okay, this is going to be a short one on my yard gardening. What I'm running across working on this new yard I got. It's coming along, but there's some things that I've noticed, and it has to do with the health of the environment in my backyard. If you're going to do gardening or landscape or something, you need to understand environment, ecosystems, and life in general and its cycles and whatnot, especially if you're going to do organic. But even if you're not, you still need to know these things. You can fertilize the crap out of stuff, and that's just a simple part of the solution to making a healthy yard. This new yard I have now, extremely unhealthy. It looks green, got nice green trees, green plants, but it's unhealthy, and let me explain why. I've done a lot of digging in here lately, in the beginnings, as I do, while starting a little bit of planting, digging holes, digging beds, digging. And something I've noticed, I've done lots of digging, I've got lots of piles of dirt that I've dug up from somewhere else. I've dug a lot. And in the entire time I've dug in this yard, I have seen the number of worms, which are part of the ecosystem, the environment. They eat the debris, they fertilize, they do a lot of wonderful things, worms do. Don't ever discount the importance of those. And the bees, okay? This yard, ever since I've been digging and dug piles and piles of dirt and piles of, not one worm, none. There's no life in the dirt, none. It's zero on this yard. I don't know why. I just acquired it. I don't know. You know, if maybe they always raked up their leaves and whatnot, or if they sprayed. I don't know. But there's no worms, none. And you need those. If you want a yard that takes care of itself, where you don't have to fertilize and buy fertilizers all the time, even if you're non-organic. Even if you're non-organic, you want the yard to somewhat fertilize, to take care of itself, to live and breathe. I have an apple tree there, over in that direction. It had lots of flowers on it. There was no frost to kill it, so the flowers were healthy when I bought the tree. Put it in. But there's no fruit. Okay? The reason that the conclusion I've come to of why there's no fruit is that I haven't seen any bees in my yard, and you need something to pollinate these things. And like I said, the ground, it just, the dirt is horrible. It looks decent. I mean, it has a decent base, nothing that I can't use, but there's no worms. Nothing to dig and aerate underneath, nothing to shoot stuff up and reconstitute it back into the... if I did not try and encourage the night crawlers, as we call them, the worms here, I would have to constantly be buying fertilizer, putting it around the trees, putting it around it constantly. I don't want to do that. I want it to take care of itself the way God intended, if you'll forgive the expression for a minute. But it just doesn't, it's not what it's supposed to be. It's hard to explain, but it's not there. So there's some things that you want in this yard, or any yard, no matter what. Now, no matter if you're just putting in a flat piece of grass down and that's all you want, nice big flat lawn. You want the worms underneath. You want those things to feed the lawn. They'll feed it for you. You don't need to go out constantly spray fertilizer and you don't need that if it is taking care of itself. At least not to a huge extent. This would take a huge extent of that to keep this yard going. And that's not in my plans. So the night crawlers, what do they need? I got to go buy some night crawlers, spread them out, and actually get a pile of leaves, of dead leaves, and put them on top of the night crawlers. Just throw them out in one of the dirt spots that I've got dug out. Throw the leaves on top for mulch, and let those things sit there and hope that some of it takes. You got to get stuff to take. You don't just put it in and it goes. It has to take and start becoming part of the cycle in the environment. Winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer. And it has to start taking and getting there and getting in. So I need to do the night crawlers in here and get those in. That's probably one of the next projects I got to get going, is actually putting in some stuff that's going to take care of this stuff that I'm planting, because I'm planting it for a reason. I want it to be taken care of. So those got to go in. The second one is the bees. Since I've been here, I think I've seen one bee maybe. Hey, other than that, no, not. And part of the thing is there's not enough to attract them. There's no reason for them to be here. There never was. So I need to get some plants that are bee friendly, the ones that they like, that they can, and hopefully one or two will just find it, and they'll start that cycle of knowing where it's at and coming back. The other thing for bees that's important in your yard is a bird feeder, a small portion of water for these animals, creatures, whatever you'd like to call them. They're not animals, they're insects, but life forms. For these life forms to exist here, to be happy here, or to exist somewhere and come over here, there's some things that's got to happen. One is they need a water source. They're going to want that. So I would say, whenever you do a yard, a small bird feeder, it doesn't matter. A nice shallow one is nice that you have to replenish with water occasionally, because of mosquitoes and their larvae. If you just put a bucket out of water and let it sit there for all year long, and it's big enough you don't have to take care of it, you're going to get mosquitoes and larvae in it, and that's a whole nother subject on how to get rid of that. So water. The bees they really need a bird feeder of water, and the birds will like it, and some other animals will like it, but basically for the bees, a nice shallow one is nice, because then the water gets replenished and it doesn't get stagnant. And they'll enjoy it. They will enjoy it. And I got to get some plants that the bees like, some flowers that the bees like. I'm not going to go through them all right now. In my last yard, every year the bees would come in, pollinate my garden, my tomatoes, my this, my that, and whatever else they saw fit. And it was nice. They would come in, the ladybugs would come in. I planted some stuff for those that they took when I first got that yard. It was full of aphids. It did have night crawlers. It was decent soil, but the aphids were it was full of roses, so the aphids were really plentiful. So I started importing a few ladybugs from the store, and at the same time found some plants that the ladybugs seemed to like, that the aphids liked too, besides the roses. But the rose bushes, the ladybugs really don't have the debris to build their nests and breed in. It's too open, especially if you keep them well taken care of and pruned correctly. So I found that hops, I planted a hop vine, and I found that aphids really like the hops the first few years. And as I started importing the ladybugs, I found that the ladybugs liked it even more. And pretty soon I didn't have aphid problems on the hops, and the rose bushes were getting to the point where there's almost no aphids. Naturally, they just were outnumbered. So that's the video on today, is the other life forms that you really need to have. I mean, you can dig and you can make beds and you can design and you can plant. If you don't have the basis of the other life around for those plants to live in harmony with, so to speak, an ecosystem that's diverse and supports itself, you're going to find that your plants aren't always as healthy. You're always looking for what type of fertilizer to put on them. You're always trying to kill the pests with sprays. You're in this cycle of trying to do all that when nature will do it for you. So the point here is this yard is really empty of any kind of life forms to support the plants that I'm planting. So I'm going to import some night crawlers, throw them out in my beds, and put some nice bed of leaves on top for them to have, and start getting them to take. Every year when I rake up the leaves, I'll probably have some portions that I leave in the beds till it's time, like this time of year, where I rake them out and clean things up. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a bird feeder in here, a shallow one for these bees. And now that I've planted a few trees and whatnot and lilies, I'm going to start planting a few bee-friendly plants next to get those things in here. And that's the point of this video, is it's not just digging, designing, but it's also looking at the big picture of what needs to go on in a yard so that you can enjoy it, so that it's enjoyable, it's beautiful, it's lush, it's nice, and that it takes care of itself, and that it's easy. It's not a lot of work, because like I said before, I've been a professional landscaper for 30 years. I'm not into doing maintenance and work and constantly. I like it when it takes care of itself and I can sit and enjoy it and not have to do all that work. And that's the point. We're going to get to the making this yard so it's enjoyable and easy to take care of. If you're worried about lawns and making those easy, there's some tips. Don't plant a tree in the middle of the yard. Leave the big open space. It's much easier to mow than going around things. You plant 3 trees in the middle of a grass, it's a pain to mow. It's not a real pain. It can't be. It's not. It'll take you an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes to mow it than if you didn't. Put the trees in other areas where you don't have to mow around them. Just make big blocks of lawn and it's easy. Anyway, I'm into easy maintenance. This video basically is on getting this yard healthy because it's unhealthy. It's from what I've seen so far and working on it, it's one of the most unhealthy yards I've ever seen. I've never seen a system so void of any kind of creature at all, although a beetle just walked by here. And there's a way to get rid of those without spraying and killing. Basically, you look at the life cycle. I'll do that for a second, just in case, since I brought it up. If you have a problem with beetles or pests like that in your yard, the solution to that, if you want to go organic and you don't want to spray to get rid of these pests or do whatever, the solution to that is simple. You look at their life cycles. And the beetles and some of these animals, specific ones that I've been dealing with, they nest under the leaves that are in the yard, sitting in the yard for those worms. They nest under those. So if you have a bush and some rocks and the beetles like that area and they're in that, what happens is in the wintertime they go underneath these leaves, and some types of yellow jackets or wasps will do this as well. But what happens is in the wintertime when they go away, they're not really gone. They're under these leaves nesting. So if you have an area like that and you want to get rid of these beetles, the solution is very simple. In the fall, right before the winter, clean up the bed so that they're bare ground. And then let it winter on that and get rid of all those leaves. Throw them away, get rid of them. Put them in your garbage can, get rid of them. And after a couple of seasons, you'll notice that the beetles are gone because you broke their life cycle. They can't nest, so they don't come back the next year. But little ones, after a while, they just don't. And you've gotten rid of them. You didn't have to spray. You didn't have to do anything. They just moved to a different neighborhood where they can do that. So that's it. That's the video. It's on yard health, creatures, insects, whatnot. If you don't mind the beetles, make a little spot for them away from where you don't want them. You can actually take weeds. You can take animals, creatures, you can move them just by what you plant, where you plant it, and how you take care of it. Everything can have its space, or you can let it go, find another space and not want to be there. But you do need a diverse system of animals and creatures. It's especially the beneficial ones that you're looking for. And this yard is totally void of those things. There isn't a night crawler worm one in the entire yard. There are no bees in this yard. There is nothing in this yard to keep this ecosystem going. The next project now that I'm working on is building that ecosystem, getting its foothold and its start so we can get into that. Thank you. That's just the progression on the yard. This one is on the little guys living here and how they're needed and how they can help you out. Thank you.